Hi guys, let's start Unit 3. Unit 3 is all about exponentials, so we're going to do Unit 3, Section 1, and we're going to learn about two things: geometric sequences and geometric means. But before we talk about geometric, let's talk about arithmetic, because that's what you know. So let's connect this topic to something you know. So arithmetic mean, let's start with arithmetic sequence. Have common differences. In other words, we're either going to add or subtract the same number each time. So let's look at an example what I mean by that. If we have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And I wanted to figure out what is the arithmetic sequence going on here? What is our common difference? So there are a couple of ways you could do this. Sometimes you can just look at it and see it, but let's say you're having a hard time seeing it. You take the second term. Oh, let me see if I can spell term. And you subtract the first term. So in this case, we have 3 minus 1 equals 2. Does that hold true for each piece of the sequence? If we add 2 each time, do we get the correct number? So 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus 2 is 7, 7 plus 2 is 9, and we could continue that 11, 13, and 15. That's an arithmetic sequence. And this is the formula you would use if we were trying to figure out the common difference. So let's try one more. This time I won't go through all the steps. Let's see if you can figure it out. 5, 2, negative 1, negative 4, and negative 7. What's the common difference here? So when you subtract 2 minus 5, you get negative 3. So each time we're subtracting 3. And I could ask you for the next couple terms, and you could just do negative 10 by continuing that pattern. So that's arithmetic, and you've done this in the past. So that's arithmetic sequence. Now let's talk about arithmetic mean. That's actually the mean that you've always done. I just want to see what color. So if we're going to do the arithmetic mean, it just sounds fancy when you say arithmetic. Remember, that's when we add all the numbers up. We're finding the average. And we add all the numbers. And we divide by the number of data points. This is how you find your grade if you're trying to figure out what your grade is in math. If you're trying to figure out your average score. So for example, let's do one. We'll just do one of these. We'll do 2. 1, 5, 7, and 9. And I asked you what the average or the arithmetic mean. If I don't say geometric mean, then we're talking arithmetic mean. We would have to define geometric mean. So 1 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9. We add those all up first. And then we divide by how many numbers there are. In this case, there are 4 numbers. And you get 5.5. So the average of 1, 5, 7, and 9 is 5.5. Let's make it about scores. Let's say I got 101 on a test. I got a 97. I got an 84. Had a bad day, got a 67. And then I got an 85. And I want to know what my average is in that class. Again, I would add 101 plus 97 plus 84 plus 67 plus 85. And once I have that answer, I'm going to divide by There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that's going to tell me my average grade, my grade in that class would be 86.6. This should all look pretty familiar. This is all arithmetic mean, and I'm explaining that to you because I want to connect that. We're now going to talk about something different. We're now going to talk about geometric mean. In most of your life, you've always done arithmetic. We just didn't call it that. So we're going to start with a geometric sequence. So a geometric sequence has a common ratio this time. A common ratio means we're either multiplying or dividing by the same number. So if you want to put that in parentheses, multiply / divide by the same number. Close parenthesis. Okay? So let's do an example of that. All right, let's say I have 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. And I want to know what's coming next. I want to know the next couple terms. Again, you can follow the same rule, but here's the formula if you were doing geometric. With geometric, you're going to do term 2, second term, divide it this time by the first term, and that's going to give you your common ratio. Okay? So in this case, we could take 2, divide it by 1, and our common ratio should be times 2. Some of you may be able to figure that out without doing all the work, but sometimes if you get stuck, it's a good idea to have this. So the next one would be 32 and 64 and so on. Okay, let's try another example. Let's try 12, 4 thirds, and 4 ninths. Now, for some of you, you can see this immediately. You see what's happening. And some of you see the fractions, and you start to get upset. Remember, fractions are our friends, but sometimes we like to move on quickly with them. So I'm going to still do the formula I told you to do. I'm going to do 4 divided by 12. And that's going to give us 1/3. So we're actually multiplying by 1/3, or you could say we're dividing by 3 each time. Okay? Now you can always use your calculator and your math frac to figure this out. But the next couple terms are going to be times 1/3. So that would be 4 over 27. And then 4 over, what's 27 times 3? 81, and so on. Okay, so that's how you find geometric sequence. Now, let's talk about geometric mean. I'm going to give this to you in a formula. We're going to have something called extremes, and it's going to be proportion. Extreme over mean equals mean over extreme. And we're going to use that formula to find our geometric mean. And here's what I mean. You're going to be given 2 numbers. It's not going to be a list of numbers. It's going to be 2 numbers, and they're going to ask you what's the geometric mean between the 2 numbers. So let's do an example. Let's say I want to know what's the geometric mean between 4 and 9. Okay, 4 and 9 are our extremes because they're on the outside. Okay? And we have to figure out the mean. So let's put that in our formula. That would be 4 over x, because we don't know the mean, equals x over 9. So far, so good? Now this should look familiar. This is a proportion, so this is cross product, cross multiply, whatever you want to call it. 4 times 9, 36. X times x, x squared. Now, right before we left for all this mess, I told you that if you square root both sides, there's always going to be 2 answers. So in order to undo x squared, we have to square root it. But whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. But in doing that, we create two answers. X could either be plus or minus 6 in this case. So our mean is plus or minus 6. Okay? Let's do one more like that. Okay, let's say I want to find the mean, geometric mean between 3 and 7. Okay? I would take 3 as an extreme and 7 as an extreme, and the x's are our means. So we have 3 over x equals x over 7. Now we cross multiply, which gives us x squared equals 21. Now last unit, we talked about leaving it in radical form. So if we square root both sides here, you could give me x equals plus or minus, don't forget that plus minus, 21. And then the decimal form would have to be approximated. It would still be plus or minus 4.58. Okay, so that's the lesson. You have homework assignments. It's 1 through 22, odds or evens. Make sure you read the directions. Numbers 1 through 6, you have to decide if it's arithmetic, geometric, or neither. And then you have to give me if there's a common difference or a common ratio. Numbers 7 through 12 already tell you it's a geometric sequence. You just have to figure out the next 3 terms. And then 13 to 22, you have to find the geometric mean. I hope that helps. Remember, I always have office hours, so if you start the homework and you're having a hard time, please log in and come see me online. Have a good day.